So some of you are interested in getting into the contracting space. Now, if you've checked out my video previously, you would have seen that I started contracting just about a year ago. I think it was about a year in March. And there are many things that I have learned within this space. And so I want to share my experiences with you in terms of my lessons learned in order for you to be sort of like a bit more knowing about how you could possibly get into contracting, or if you're a contractor yourself, to see if you relate. Now, I may use the terms independent consultant interchangeably with the word contractor because I believe they're very similar. Now, I have to put out a caveat. This is obviously my experiences. My experiences have predominantly been within the public sector, in addition to being within the health sector/area. So again, this is not necessarily typical. This is just my experience. I just want to share it with you guys, just in case if or you may relate to this, in the future. So here is my first point. You meet some amazing people. There have been some tremendous individuals that I've been able to meet because of contracting. I've formed some very deep and meaningful relationships in a very short space of time because you're on projects and programs that enable you to be your best. I've also been able to meet people within, various different spaces such as the consulting world in very sort of niche areas, people who are PhD, sort of like doctorate people and all these smart individuals. There's all this stuff. And I've been able to do this because the different programs, projects and work streams I've been working on have really called for people with so many different various skills to come in and fix the job. It's primarily been around the whole sort of like COVID pandemic situation, response and all of this kind of stuff there. So I've met some amazing people along the way. The second thing to say about this is that there are peaks and troughs. There are times where you are really go. And there are times where you're actually sort of like slowly sort of building up towards something. And the reason why sometimes you're slowly building up towards something is because of mainly two reasons. Number one, you're at the beginning of the project/program cycle, and therefore, you're sort of like gathering your information, gathering your bearings, trying to work out what makes sense in terms of moving forward. Number two, the project, workstream or program has completed or is completing, and therefore you naturally start to get a dip. So it kind of goes like this for a long period of time, and then it may slowly go down, or it may just go like that. And that's when you know it's time to go. Okay, don't hang around. The next thing I'll say is that you can be on an anxiety roller coaster. What do I mean by this? I've been in so many situations right now. I think I've had a couple of contracts now where effectively we haven't known whether our contract is ending or not. And so if you're someone who can't deal with those heart palpitations, okay, whether it's going to continue, whether it's going to stop, etc., then you may have to think about whether contracting is specifically for you. I mean, this is part of the game. This is what we sign up for. For all of the benefits that we get with contracting, there will be some negatives. And one of those negatives is that sometimes you could be cut early, or sometimes you'd be in situations where you're told that actually we don't need you anymore. Now, luckily, that hasn't happened to me. It's almost happened to me. But touch wood, if there's any wood around me, that's not a good sign. It doesn't happen. But if it does, I'm ready for it because, again, with one of the points that I'm going to talk about, it's important to make sure that you're prepared. So just bear that in mind. It can be a bit anxious at times when you don't really know what your future looks like, especially when it comes to a workstream, program, or organization. The next thing I want to say is that your net worth is truly your net worth. So what I mean by this is that the people that you interact with, the relationships that you develop and foster, they translate sometimes into paying contracts. And so I've been able to get, if not all of my contracts, bar one, my first one, based on good connections that I've made with other people. Now, it's not because I've purposely been networking. It's because I've just been myself, I believe, at least anyway. And my work has spoken for itself. When I say work, I'm not just talking about hard results or whatever it may be. I'm also talking about the type of person I am, the genuineness and sincerity that I believe that I provide to other people, and just having a can-do attitude. And so people recognize this and really want this within their space, or at least within the spaces that I've been working in. And so it's really important to make sure that you don't burn bridges unnecessarily unless you're called to for whatever reason. And so very important to realize this. The next thing to really say is that authenticity reigns. And I talk about authenticity all the time in the sense of really living in accordance to your values, so to speak. Now, it's not to say that you should be, some brash, whatever lazy version of yourself, because that's the most authentic part of you. But what I'm saying is that be true to you, be sincere at least, okay? People need to be able to pick up a genuineness about you. And this shines when you basically speak your truth. You can do that in a professional manner. This comes when you're able to be vulnerable. This is where you start to build rapport and good relationships. This comes when you're able to just be your human self. And so people like to see these different parts of you because it means they can trust or rely on you. The other part of the bargain is making sure that you deliver as well. Okay. So if there's something you can do, great. If there's something you can't do, be honest about it. And I think that's what we're saying. Brutal honesty and loving honesty combined can be really useful within this space. Of course, making sure that you have the right sort of candor when you communicate with people as well. It's also important to understand that you don't have to be an expert in everything that you do. There are some people who believe that you need to be a seasoned veteran in a certain space. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have those certain capabilities or skills or knowledge, should we say, then of course it creates an advantage for you. In the same instance, I think what's more important is the character, okay? There are times where I felt like I don't even know what my niche is, okay? I know I'm definitely within the change and transformation space. However, there have been times, like I've said before, where I don't clearly know what my niche is. I just know that I have the ability to really give it my all. I have some knowledge within project delivery, change management, coaching, and program management. And so that counts for something, okay? Now, obviously, the qualifications that you have and the experiences and all of that kind of stuff that you have all help shape this stuff. But fundamentally, for me at least, I think character is more important than all of these other things as well. But of course, the reality of the situation is your CV and the way you talk and the people you talk to and your network definitely helps to boost your opportunities when it comes to contracting or independent consulting. Now, before I continue, it'd be great to know what other things you would love to know about contracting or independent consulting within the UK. So just leave your comments below and I'll do my best to try to answer some of these questions, or you may be best fit to answer these questions. So comment below. Another thing to take on board is the fact that sometimes you can just take on too much. I've been involved in quite a few contracts where it's involved a lot of complexity, ambiguity, and change. And so with that in mind, sometimes in order to please, so to speak, or to prove our worth as contractors, we can take on too much. But the downside to that is you can be exposed to burnout. You can be exposed to all these different mild mental health issues that may come to play. So I would say be careful. Yes, push yourself, but there is always a limit. You have to be careful because your health can be affected within this space quite heavily, especially because whether we like it or not, we're disposable. I mean, we all are to an extent, but even more so as an independent consultant. The next thing is that it pays to be a professional, okay? What I mean by this is if you have structures and systems for yourself, whether it's within the working space or whether this is for your personal life, you are more likely going to be able to produce good fruit. So what I mean by this is that, do you have things organized in terms of your folders? Do you have an action log that you follow? Do you have a framework that you're sticking by? Are you making sure that your paperwork and how you communicate with different experts, such as your accountant and stuff, is done in an organized fashion? All of this stuff will help you be a seasoned contractor. So again, it pays to be professional because sometimes you may forget things. And upon that forgetfulness, that could cost you money, or that could cost you a contract, or that could cost you an opportunity. So don't drop the ball. It's important to make sure that you've got things on lock, okay? There's no playing about when it comes to this space. So ensure that you have that professionalism about you. And if you need feedback, get a coach to help you get feedback. Or you could get somebody who is trusted or objective by nature who could help you along this journey as well. The next thing is that you need to be financially savvy, okay? I'm not saying you need to understand every single thing when it comes to tax or different sort of things that you have to contribute or whatever it may be. But it pays to be financially savvy. What do I mean by this? Understand, your invoices and what the breakdowns mean. Understand your payment slips. Understand what it means to be connected to an umbrella company. Understand the difference between inside IR35 and outside IR35. Understand some of the new tax regulations that are coming into play. Understand what this means for you personally in terms of how you budget and set your money. Because look, let's say, for example, you're inside IR35, and again, you can check my previous YouTube video on this, then obviously, there are times where you may get paid and may not get paid if you don't submit your timesheet on time, or if your line manager doesn't approve it in time for you. If you're outside of IR35, what is your payment arrangement? Can you survive if, let's say, for example, the payment arrangement is monthly, or I say monthly because it's weekly for me these days, or if it's quarterly, or even at the end of the assignment? Can you afford that? So think about all of these things in order for you to make sure that when you go into this space, or if you're already in this space, you've got things on lock, okay? You're not just spending for spending's sake. You have a plan, you have an emergency fund, you have things in allocated pots. Again, there's no association here at all, but Starling is a great tool for this, for your personal finances. Again, if you're using a business account for your, money management and stuff, you can use things like Tide as well, which is fantastic as well. You can also give access to your accountant if they manage your finances that way as well. The next thing is having an accountant, okay? I feel like, this has been one of the best things and investments that I've had. Now, I use a company called Sapphire, okay? They're a fantastic company based within the UK. They manage both my sort of like outside of IR35 style contracts and also my inside IR35 style contracts. But with that in mind, they're useful. They're very useful. They're professional. They're slick. They have great tools. They're at the end of the phone if I need them consistently. And they've just helped really boost my understanding of money just in general when it comes to this space. So if you're looking to do it yourself, that's great, but you need to make sure you file your tax returns if you're outside of IR35. You need to make sure that you understand the nuances of finances and legal, so to speak, when it comes to this stuff. I would say hands down, make sure that you get an accountant, because it could be the difference between you having peace of mind or you being in trouble for whatever reason. The next thing is to say that the money is great, but do not take the money for granted. Okay. And I don't want to be talking boastfully about anything. It is what it is. If you're in the space, you can find out for yourself, or you could talk to an accountant who could give you more information in terms of what you could expect based on your experience and your skills, etc. But you can't take it for granted. Sometimes we can get into this, I think what it is called Parkinson's law, where, effectively we make more, therefore we spend more. When really it's more of an opportunity to see how you can invest your money well, okay? Whether that is investing in index funds, or if you're a bit riskier by nature, investing into something like crypto or NFTs, or maybe it's investing into your business, or maybe it's just developing yourself so you can get bigger and better contracts in the future. Whatever it may be, that's great, but you can't take it for granted, because nothing is forever. Nothing is forever. And so be grateful for this opportunity if you're blessed to be in this space, especially doing stuff that you love. Okay. Now, the thing is, this is phase 2 for me, as I've said to people. Phase 3 is where I completely do my own thing. But with that in mind, in many ways, depending on the style of contracts you're doing, it can still feel like I say 9 to 5. It's never 9 to 5. It can feel like that at times, depending on the type of contract you're doing. And that's a good thing at times, because it gives you routine. Other times, it doesn't always feel as great. And there are other contracts where it doesn't feel like that at all, and you're doing your own thing. So all I'm saying, don't take it for granted. There's a good friend of mine who I speak to about this on a regular basis. We both got into contracting around the same time. I think I just got in just before then. And to be honest with you, we say this all the time, we're so thankful and grateful for this opportunity, but we don't take it for granted. And so there's a certain level of humility that we need to take when it comes to being in this space as well. And that's why being a professional is so important. Okay, you can't just be acting like you're the king or queen of the world because you're in this space making more than what you were doing before. So just be grateful. This is taxpayers' money at the end of the day, depending on the space that you're in. If it's not taxpayers' money or you're contracting or consulting for a private company, slightly different situation. But even still, it's really good to maintain that humility as well. The final thing to really say is that, you're really called in to do the brunt work. You're called in because you have that expertise or knowledge. You're called in because you're willing to do certain things. You're called in to deal with the ambiguity, the complexity, and the challenge that is posed with the workstream, program, or projects that you'll be working on. And so don't expect any special treatment, so to speak. It's for you to go out there and prove yourself and prove to them that you are valuable. And that's how I believe you get more contracts, because again, fundamentally, they become your recommendations, or they become part of your network, or this is solid stuff that you can add to your CV as well. For those of you who are checking out how to improve their CV, I may do a workshop on this. I'm thinking about this, but you can get services such as Purple CV to do your CV for you as well. And when I say for you, it's not them doing it for you. They're just making it neater and more articulate and more concise and more targeted to what it is that you're trying to do. Now, of course, obviously you have to give them information in order for them to do this. But essentially, again, great service, at least 2 bears of structure. There are other services as well where you don't even need to do any of that stuff. And there are free applications where you input the information and then it spits out a really nice and concise CV for you as well. So you're paid to come in to do all of those different things. So just remember that. So that's it on contracting. Really, it's an opportunity for you to be the person you are called to be in a professional space and get compensated for that in a really good manner as well. I recently did an event called Take Back Control, which is an opportunity for people to really adopt 7 key principles that enables people to feel like they can create more impact and meaning in their life. Now, I've recorded the event and there's an opportunity for you to watch the replay of this event. So make sure you click the link below in order to actually watch this 2-hour featured long session. I mean, I don't hold back in this session at all. It's very informed, it's very articulate, it's very sort of educational, but it's also actionable as well. Okay, so if you're interested in just really understanding how you can create more impact and meaning in your life, check out the link below. And I talk about so many different facets of life, whether that is living authentically, whether that is focused on your career, whether that's focused on growing your money. I give you nuggets for each of these different areas based on experiences that I have had, but also based on my professionalism and practitionership, if you want to call it that, within the coaching space as well. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a registered and practiced EMCC coach practitioner. Anyway, I almost messed that up there. If you like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.